Sure, I don't know how you're hungry afterwards, but why not? They've made it something of a tradition over the past several years. As the elevator climbed, Ruriko thought of fresh tonkatsu ramen, the crush of bodies, and the warm reassurance of anonymity. She chose not to think about where Shunsuke was headed, or the contents of his briefcase, or any of his numerous distasteful habits. The elevator halted and Shunsuke got out. He cut a sharp silhouette against the neon colors vying for dominance on the hallway's digitally projected wallpaper. "See you at 10, he said, and the doors slid shut behind him. Miyu Nakamura tilted her head. Her hair fell across her shoulders in long, dyed brown curls, and she wore a pink pleated dress with a fluffy white petticoat. A different room, a different night, a different member of Iris. My last concert? The one in Shibuya? Ruriko remembered Shibuya. Iris's costumes had been white and pastel blue with geometric wire overlays. She hadn't been able to keep her eyes off of Yume, whose long hair had danced about her waist with every precise, choreographed step. No, the one at the Harajuku Astro Hall, said Ruriko. October 14th. 2014? Oh, Harajuku. Yeah, that's not happening until next week, said Miyu. The bed in this room was bright pink and covered in an alarming number of stuffed animals. There was barely room on it for either of them, even perched as they were on opposite sides. We've been working on our routine since July, but Yume's pushing us real hard. My legs are still sore from practice this afternoon. She stuck them out, draping a coy ankle over Ruriko's lap. Ruriko ignored it. You want to massage them? Nice try, said Ruriko. If you're a dancer, isn't that something you should know how to do yourself? Miyu stuck her tongue out, but she started to knead her own calves anyway. What kind of fan are you? Just someone who likes to talk, said Ruriko. She reached over and took Miyu's other leg, massaging it briskly. She'd done this for the real Miyu and the others, too, once upon a time. Although, I guess I'm pretty fond of Yume. Everyone is fond of Yume, said Miyu. She's so pretty and confident. Mature. Her voice wobbled a little at the end. I don't know what she sees in Rina. She's basically the opposite of everything good about Yume. And she had a point, Ruriko thought. Once upon a time, Sorry, I'm still a little sick. Once upon a time, Rina Tanaka had been brash, even abrasive. Her integration had been a rough patch in Iris's history, and the real Miyu had made no secret of the fact that she didn't approve of any newcomer, especially not some cocky hotshot from a bad part of town. Rina thinks she's all that because she's a good dancer, but she's lazy. She comes to practice late, and she slacks off all the time. Worse, Yume lets her. Miyu sighed and flopped back on the bed. A shower of plush creatures tumbled off the mattress around her. I told her that she shouldn't play favorites because she's our leader. She told me to practice harder so I wouldn't be jealous. Yume had never told Ruriko about that. But then, this was why Ruriko visited Miyu every time she wanted to feel a bit better about herself. And I have been working hard on this new choreo for Harajuku. Do you want to see? Miyu hopped off the bed and struck a pose. One hand on her hip, elbows angled out. She had worked hard. Ruriko remembered that. Dancing had always been Miyu's weak spot, but the ferocity of her dedication had earned her Ruriko's respect. Not that it mattered a few weeks later. But after one practice session, 2 years into Rina Tanaka's career as the newest member of Iris, Miyu had been tired of choreography, although everyone was tired of it except for Yume, who practiced religiously and with fierce dedication. And she had grabbed Ruriko's hand. Let's go shopping, she said. And Ruriko had been surprised because, well, Miyu openly disliked her. But maybe something had changed between them. They'd worn cloth masks just like the one Ruriko wore now, and hoodies, and pretended to be sick there all the way so no one would look at their faces, and no one had. The push and pull of the crowd, crush of humanity, after spending so long in their studio, hammering immaculate choreography into their bodies, God, it had been thrilling. Ruriko had bought an ugly bear and smuggled it into the studio to leave at Yume's station. But she remembered Miyu's smile, the first genuine one she'd ever seen on her face. As they snapped a selfie with their matching stuffed animals, she thought, maybe I can do this. Maybe we can be friends. Ruriko wondered how Idoro had gotten its hands on this plush bear. Maybe there were closets of duplicate bears, duplicates of all the rabbits and mascots and soft round things heaped up on the bed just in case something happened to the original. Well, Miyu sounded impatient, and Ruriko looked up. Sure enough, Miyu was glowering at her, a tiny storm rising on that perfect, adorable little face. Ruriko had never liked Miyu's face. No. I wouldn't want to spoil the surprise, Ruriko added hastily, seeing how crestfallen Miyu looked. I'm going to watch the broadcast live. It's more fun that way. Mollified Miyu flopped down next to her. One of her pigtails trailed across Ruriko's legs. Ruriko picked it up. I guess that makes sense. Too bad. I love sneak peeks. She always had. That night at the Astro Hall, she burst into the dressing room full of glee. There's a giant light display over the stage. 4 giant screens, corner to corner, so everyone can see us dance. Ruriko had come in later than usual that day, and she hadn't gotten a good look at the setup during their abbreviated tech rehearsal. None of them had realized at the time just how heavy those screens and the rigging that came with them were. Hey, said Miyu, and her voice was soft and almost gentle. This Miyu, thought Ruriko, still wore the original one's insecurity. Would you brush my hair? I feel a little unsettled today. I'm not sure why. Well, so did Ruriko. She glanced up at the clock mounted on the wall. 45 minutes left, and then this Miyu would go back to being alone, waiting in his empty hotel room, with no memory of their conversation. I can do that, she said. Will you hand me the brush? The back of Miyu's plastic hairbrush was covered in fake rubber icing, piped into a heart shape and decorated with fake rubber mini pastries. Rhinestones dripped down the handle and dug into Ruriko's palm. Miyu's hair felt like the real thing. When Iris was younger, she used to make the others help her fix it. If you don't, I'll fuck up the back, she said. And every time she was right. Ruriko remembered every night before a performance in a strange new city, helping Miyu roll her hair up into curlers and fix them in place with strawberry-shaped Velcro patches. This fake Miyu probably had fake hair. Maybe, Ruriko thought, it was real human hair. Not the real Miyu's, but some other girls, shorn and dyed to suit a dead idol's image. She wondered where those girls were now, and how old their hair was. She wondered now how hard it was to wash blood and other fluids out of synthetic wigs, and if someone had given up and sought a more human source to solve their human problem. A finger tapped her hand. When Ruriko met Miyu's eyes, the smile on Miyu's pink-glossed lips was a little wicked. Hey, you should really come to Harajuku next week and see us live. It's going to be big, and you won't want to miss it. Especially not if you're a fan of Yume's. Maybe I'll come see you too, said Ruriko, brushing the hair with steady, even strokes. The painful hope in Miyu's eyes dug at her own guilty conscience, and she found herself brushing harder, faster, even when the strands of beautiful chestnut brown hair began to come out. Look at that, said Shunsuke, as Ruriko exited the elevator doors and blew into the lobby. He was watching the music videos playing beneath the acrylic floorboards. Look at me! I am so young! There were little pale pink pills of synthetic fur stuck to Ruriko's sleeve, tangled among stray bits of hair. She picked them off furiously, tossing them into the air, where they wafted aimlessly away. What, who? Me! Rena, look at this! He grabbed her arm, and she seized his wrist with her other hand so hard that he looked up at her with alarm. What? What is your problem? Don't call me Rena. It's Ruriko. Shunsuke let go. Oh, right. Sorry, my bad. Now it is. I forgot. He pulled back and scratched his head. Beneath his well-shined shoes, his teenage self writhed in high definition. Guessing it was a bad night for you? Seeing Miyu always left a complicated taste in her mouth. You buy me ramen tonight, she said. Tonkatsu, extra pork. Shunsuke, to his credit, made good. He didn't complain when she took the seat closest to the stall's far wall either, even though that was his favorite place to sit. You know, in all the months we've been coming here, I've never seen you order anything different, he said. Always tonkatsu. Maybe extra pork if you can afford it after blowing all your money at Aidoru. Don't get your hopes up, Ruriko had told Shunsuke after their first post-Aidoru dinner, 9 years and 2 months after the Harajuku... Don't get your hopes up, Ruriko had told Shunsuke after their first post-Aidoru dinner, 9 years and 2 months after the Harajuku Astro Hall catastrophe. The hotel had been open for just under a year under her family's management, and she had already been feeling raw over one more intrusion into her past. And then there was Shun in the lobby, so slick and confident that looking at him made her teeth hurt. "I'm not planning on fucking you." "Oh, good," he said, offering her his lighter. "It's mutual." He'd kept his word, and so had she, and after a career spent under public scrutiny, that pressureless friendship had been a relief. If they had tried this 10 years ago, Ruko knew it would never have worked. "There's nothing wrong with having a favorite," said Ruko, chasing one of her last bamboo shoots around her bowl. "You're nothing if not consistent yourself." "I order something different all the time." "That's not what I mean," Ruko said. She nodded at Shunsuke's briefcase. He grimaced and kicked it farther under the bar top. The metal buckle caught a stray pocket of light and flashed back into Ruko's eyes. She caught sight of a tuft of short, bleached blonde hair snagged on the briefcase's lock, before it disappeared between Shunsuke's legs. "I haven't been the same kind of ramen. That's so boring. Don't you ever want to try something new?" No. It was true. Sticking to a very regimented schedule was something Ruko hadn't been able to shake, even a decade after her dancing days were over. All she needed for her graphic design work was her computer, her tablet, her notebooks, and the comfortable nests of books and pillows that she'd built for herself. She exercised alone in her apartment, and groceries were delivered to her door. Ruko kept mostly to herself these days, and she had little desire to leave the small, ordered world that she had so carefully constructed. Shunsuke and the other Idora regulars might well be psychopaths, but they are also the only other humans she saw on a regular basis. Shunsuke, Ruko amended as she watched him drain the dregs of his spicy miso ramen. Shunsuke was definitely a psychopath, but he was self-contained. There was only one person he ever hurt, and visiting the Idora Hotel helped him deal with that. Shunsuke set down his empty bowl. His wristwatch slid forward, bearing a tangled mess of flattened scar tissue before his sleeve dipped back down to cover it. "Let's get drunk," he said, and Ruko had no objection to that. 3.5 beers later, Ruko was back on the Idora Hotel's booking website, scrolling over Yume's face. There was a menu on Yume's main page. Group, Iris, 154 centimeters tall, 49 kilograms, black hair, B cup, brown eyes, active, 2011 to 2014. And when Ruko tapped on it, she always did, how many times had she been here before, a drop-down list of dates and times unfolded beneath her fingertips. A list of all the original Yume's data scans and uploads from the first time she let the talent management agency scan her memories and impressions. As they all did, how many times had they been told it was a contractual necessity? All of them, from the first time to the last time, and every week in between. She scrolled all the way down to the end of the list to the last available entry. October 8th, 2014. She slammed her phone down. God fucking damn it. Shunsuke peered over at her. "Careful until you get cracks in the screen." "I don't know why I keep coming back," Ruko said into her hands. "I know it's fake. God, I keep hoping someone will find and upload another entry. Just a couple more days worth of data. Just a couple more memories. Just a little more time." Bitching with Kaori about their talent agency, loitering in the park with Miyu, Yume's voice in her ear as they stood together on the subway platform, waiting for the last train of the night. Shunsuke rested his palm on her shoulder. His touch was unexpectedly gentle. He didn't tell her what they both already knew. "Let's get you home," he said instead. "I wish they would get their shit together," said Kaori Aoki. "When they fight, it affects us all. Yume works us harder, Rina skips out on responsibilities, but something must have happened because Rina stormed in late today and Yume's not talking to anyone unless she's barking orders." She sighed, scratching her short-cropped hair. 2 days ago, someone had offered a bootleg copy of what they claimed were Kaori Aoki's last memories, recovered from some ancient talent agency database, offering it to the Idoru. Ruko had swallowed her disappointment. Why Kaori? She didn't care about Kaori, not the way she cared about Yume. But she had demanded that her family purchase the upload anyway. Probably wasn't legit, but just in case. The longer she spent in the room with Kaori, the more the memories seemed to check out, and the more terrible hope rose in Ruko's chest. If it could happen for Kaori, then maybe it wasn't impossible to think that it could happen for Yume too. "We're running out of time before Harajuku, and their bickering is so petty," said Kaori. So this version of her, the fight between Yume and Rina had occurred just that afternoon. She was right, it had been petty, most of the time. This latest fight hadn't been. Ruko had kissed Yume in the studio, when the two of them were alone, and Yume had freaked out. Not because she didn't want to be kissed, but because Ruko had done it in their workplace. "What if someone saw?" Yume had demanded. The wild, panicked, accusing look on her face had stabbed Ruko right through the heart. "You could ruin both of our careers." "She doesn't like the costume," Rina muttered. I didn't like it either." Kaori raised an inquisitive eyebrow. "No one likes the costumes. They're always terrible. This time especially. But we wear them anyway, and they're never as bad as they look at first." She headed for the dresser and began digging through the drawers. Stockings, lingerie, and compression tights fluttered to the carpet. What they need to do, in my opinion, is kiss and make up, or kiss and make out, whichever one helps the most. Ruko's head jerked up. "You think they're together?" Kaori laughed. "Everyone knows. They're so obvious. Even Miyu knows, and she's in denial because she's half in love with Yume herself." Ruko's stomach turned. She sat down, hard, right there on the floor. They'd fought because Ruko had wanted to tell the rest of Iris about them, and Yume hadn't. The media would have eviscerated them, and Ruko hadn't cared. The last thing she heard before she turned on her heel and stormed away was Yume shouting, "How could you be so selfish?" Yume had forbidden her to tell anyone anything, so Rina hadn't. Rina stopped talking to her group mates altogether, and the frosty silence had carried over on the train to Harajuku days later. Kaori gave up on the dresser and threw open the doors to her walk-in closet. The racks were a riot of color, stretching back like a long, awful throat made of bold metallic dresses and gauzy floral prints. Every costume she'd worn on stage, arranged by year instead of color. A fan's paradise. "It's gotta be in here. Hang on." "Please don't," said Ruko. Her voice came out strangled. The closet stank of bad memories. Just looking at the costumes made sweat gather in her palms, at the small of her back, her heartbeat galloping in her throat. But Kaori was already rifling through them, humming one of their songs under her breath. Ruko could only remember half the notes. The melody in her head was distorted, like trying to listen to music underwater. Kaori emerged, flourishing a silver dress with a stiff flared skirt. "Look, I found it! Isn't it terrible?" "It's really bad," mumbled Ruko. The second to last time she'd seen that costume, she'd thrown it in Yume's face. Kaori pressed it against Ruko's chest. "Here, try it on. It is so uncomfortable, you will not believe it." Ruko should have said no. But all she could think about was how she had screamed at Yume, sending the dress flying in her face like a giant bat. If she could have taken it back, if she could have taken any of it, all of it back. Something must have been wrong with her head, because then she was stepping out of her jeans, and Kaori was zipping the dress up behind her, all the way to the nape of her neck. It didn't fit properly. Their bodies weren't the same shape. And where Ruko was small and soft, Kaori was tall and toned. This version of her, 17 years old and programmed with a new set of memories. October 12th, 2 days away from Iris's amputated future. This version of her was full of tomboyish energy and excitement. "See, I told you." "But you actually look pretty good in this," said Kaori, turning her towards the mirror. They stood, side by side. Ruko pinched into a dress that was too tight in the waist and too loose in the bust. Kaori comfortable in shorts and a light blouse. The dress gaped open like a loose flap of skin over Ruko's breasts. None of it fit, and it was hard to even look at her own body. And then Kaori tapped a panel on the wall, and music blared into the tiny room. Synth vocals over a pulsing beat, 4 voices in one. The Idoro Hotel vanished. Ruko was back there, standing on that slowly rising stage, her eyes wide in the dark, the ceiling of the Astro Hall soaring high above her in perfect geometry, her high heels already pinching her feet with 2.5 hours left to dance, empty palm aching to hold Yume's hand, mouth still angry, both at Yume and at herself for not being able to get over it, waiting beneath that teetering lighting grid, waiting for the tech cue to start the third song, waiting. "I can't do this." Ruko's hand scratched wildly at her dress, hunting for the zipper. She couldn't reach it, and she thought wildly, "What if I'm stuck in this forever? I can't. The music cut off. Her ears rang with silence. Hands found her and unzipped her quickly, and Ruko sagged with relief. "Are you okay?" said Kaori. Looking at her, Ruko saw, instead of her wide, earnest face, a mess of dark hair spilling out from beneath 2 tons of metal, and sharp, shocked shapes of blood splattered across the stage. "I don't think so," Ruko said. She couldn't be okay. Not if she was paying to destroy herself over and over every month. Kaori pulled her into her arms and held her tight. They stayed like that until Ruko's 2 hours were up. She was still shaking when she boarded her train home. Her phone rattled in her grip. But by the time the subway reached its next stop, she had booked and paid for her next appointment at the Aidoru. "This is going to sound rich coming from me," said Shunsuke, "but you need to learn to let things go." They stood on the balcony of Shunsuke's apartment, smoking together and watching the rain pour down in great sheets. The brilliant multicolored lights from all the signs and ads and cars zinging by became patchy and blurred, doubled and strange in this weather. "Sure I do. Speaking of which, how's that new dry cleaner working out for you?" said Ruko. "He's great. He never asks any questions." He cut his eyes at her. "I'm serious. Those girls can't remember anything. They don't even know who you are." "They can't remember?" Ruko murmured, stabbing out her cigarette. "But I can't forget. God, I don't want to forget." "You know what always helped me," said Shun, and Ruko hated him for what he was about to say. "Cutting right to the heart of the problem. And you're the heart, Rinako, not them." She flicked the cigarette off the ledge of the balcony. Its dying ember flickered in the air, fluttering downwards before disappearing into the night. "You can finish this. You'll never have to go back again." She whirled on him, anger flaring bright in her. Shunsuke always acted like he had everything figured out, with his sly voice and dry cleaning and neat little suitcase. "Does it feel good to lie to me?" she snapped. "Is that why you keep coming back to Aidoru-shin? Because you've excised the heart of the problem?" He stared hard at her and turned away. She bit her lip to keep any more of the venom bubbling up in her mouth from spilling out. Looking at the tall, lanky shape he cut against the sky, she realized how different he was from when she'd seen him the first time, over 10 years ago, surrounded by the other members of his group. He'd been small back then, with bleached blonde hair, and in the decade following his own accident, he'd grown into himself and left that gangliness behind. He was sharper now, harder, and there was only ever one room that Shunsuke visited at the Aidoru, and only ever one person. Do you talk to him?" she said at last. "When you go see him?" Shunsuke passed her another cigarette. There was still synthetic blood on his sleeve, a thin, dark stain running towards his wrist. "What would we have to talk about?" he said. "Cutting right to the heart of the problem," Shunsuke had said, as if it were that easy. But he'd opened his suitcase and pressed a bright switchblade into her hand before she left, folding her fingers over its polished wooden handle. "Trust me, it'll feel better afterwards." People came to the Aidoru Hotel for answers. Therapy, excess, an outlet for stress, the sate obsessions. If the Aidoru could help someone as fucked up as Shunsuke, Ririko reasoned, then surely it could help someone like her. The overwhelming roar of pop music threatened to crush her down into the plush, ugly, black and white hallway carpet. Upstairs and downstairs, people were already fucking TV personalities and musicians long dead, and somewhere else in the hotel, Shunsuke was about to take his bright knife to his younger self's skin, but Ririko stood alone outside of a room she'd paid for, Shunsuke's borrowed switchblade in her pocket, too afraid to touch the door. "You've already spent your money," said a voice in her head. It sounded like hers, but off, the way recordings of her own voice always sounded. "And a room here is expensive. Don't waste it." "It'll make you feel better," said Shunsuke. "Trust me." "The only person you think about is yourself," whispered Yume. "Fix that, and then we'll talk." No one in their right mind came to the Aidoru Hotel, thought Ririko, and she gripped her card key tight and reached for the lock. The door slid open on its own, and her hand leaped back. A dark-haired girl peered at her from inside the room, one hand up to shield her eyes from the bright cacophony of pop music. She was the same height, the same build as Ruko, if 10 years slimmer and younger. "Are you going to come in?" said Rina Tanaka. "Are you going to stand in the hall all night?" After a moment, Ruko tucked her card key back in her pocket and followed her inside. Rina's room was all dusty violet, the color of her own childhood room. The lights were dim, and Rina slid the switches up, making the room brighter. The wallpaper glinted with silver interlocked triangles, and they winked viciously at her as she passed. "I was wondering when you'd stop by. I've been waiting for you." Ruko studied her, hiding her nervousness behind her mask. Rina looked about 17 and had the same angled haircut that Ruko remembered getting in September, right before the show in Shibuya with the powder blue uniforms. "How did you know I was coming?" "Your friend told me. He's been visiting me for a while now. Paid for memory retention services and everything." This was Rina minus her stage persona, rougher than the other girls, and Iris, always a little too honest. In her voice, Ruko heard the hints of kabuki-cho that she'd spent her life trying to erase. "You said a woman in a red face mask would come by because she wanted to talk to me about something. You didn't tell me what it was. And you're the only woman with a red face mask I've seen so far." Shinsuke had set this up for her. Ruko's hands shook. She kept them tucked in her pockets. The knife burned bright in her pocket. He'd probably meant it as a gift. "Hey, you're from Kabuki-cho too, aren't you?" said Rina. She'd smiled. Well, Ruko had had that smile once too. "So, who are you? What do you want to tell me?" "You're gonna let her die," said Ruko, the words tumbling out past her clenched teeth, "at the Astro Hall." She had Rina's full attention now, and in that face, Ruko read what she'd known was there, the anger, the fear that she remembered having before they set out for Harajuku. "The lighting grid is faulty, it fell, and it crushed everyone. You may..." "Stop," Rina said tightly. "I don't know what you're talking about." But her eyes were overbright, her voice too high. Ruko grabbed her by the shoulders. "She died. You killed her because you were a selfish little shit. You showed up late because you were sulking and you wanted to make them miss you. There wasn't enough time to run a tech rehearsal. They would have caught it. I know." Rina pushed at Ruko, but Ruko held on. Tears brimmed in Rina's eyes. "Fuck, I know! I remember. Did you think I'd forget?" Ruko's grip was so tight that her fingers were starting to hurt. "What? I was an idiot. I thought I was so mad. I was so upset at her. I thought she'd dump me for sure after that." Rina's tears splattered over Ruko's arms. She wasn't pushing her away anymore. She gripped Ruko's shirt. "I wanted to make her hate me. I wanted to make her pay." She had wanted that. And Yume had paid. But Ruko's head was reeling, and she shook Rina. "What day is it?" she demanded. "What's the last day you remember?" "October 25th, whispered Rina. "I woke up in a hospital. The people from the talent agency were there. They said they'd scanned me while I was out. They told me I'd never dance again. Everyone in Iris was dead, and if I knew what was good for me, I'd pretend I was too." She'd forgotten. Ruko let go of Rina. She had forgotten about that last scan. Those days were a blur of grief and horror and regret, and it hadn't seemed important in the wake of her loss. Yume was gone. "I could have saved her," said Ruko. She felt numb. She'd been so stupid. She was right. How could I have been so selfish? "You?" A look of terrible revelation crossed Rina's face. "What's under this mask? Who are you?" She reached out towards Ruko's face. Ruko shoved her away so hard that Rina stumbled back into the small wooden vanity parked against the wall. "Don't touch me," Ruko said hoarsely. All of their collective secrets were spilling into open air. "Please," said Rina, but Ruko backed away. Her awful synthetic body with its awful synthetic skin and awful synthetic youth, its face twisted with regret but still whole, made Ruko sick. She turned and fled the room. She was in the elevator, and through the lobby, and out into the street, 15 minutes into her 2-hour time slot. She didn't ask for a refund. It took a very long time for Ruko to come back to the Aidoru. But when she did, there was only one door she gravitated to. "Does my face scare you?" she said. Yume glanced at her. They lay together on the red circular bed in her room, side by side, their hands just brushing each other. One of them had accidentally hit a switch to make the bed rotate, and they hadn't been able to figure out how to turn it off. So they turned slowly together, their feet dangling to brush the floor. No, of course not. You had reconstructive surgery, right? It looks really natural. The red cloth mask was wadded up in Ruruko's other palm. How many times had this Yume seen her face? How many times had she asked her the same questions, aching to hear Yume's affirmation over and over again? How much did it hurt knowing that Yume couldn't blame her for what would happen, what did happen in Harajuku, because she would never know who Ruruko was? Impulsively, she sat up halfway, propping herself on her elbows. You know, some people have said that I look like Rina Tanaka. What do you think? Yume took a moment before she replied. Perhaps her internal algorithm was searching for a tactful answer. Maybe a little, she said at last. Your eyebrows. Very, very Rina Tanaka. Ruruko laughed. She thought she'd be injured by that response, and she was surprised and pleased to find that she wasn't. It's more than I thought I'd get. I'm surprised you saw any resemblance. You spend so much time together, I bet you know her better than most people. I'm seeing her later tonight, Yume said, looking slyly at Ruruko. We're going to hang out after evening practice, she promised. A luminous feeling spread through Ruruko's chest. She settled her head back on the pillow and stared up at the mirrored ceiling, thinking, what had they done the night of October 8th? It hurt that she couldn't recall all the details. They'd blurred at the edges over the years. But she remembered it was cold already, unseasonably cold, and she had dragged Yume to the park to get ice cream anyway. Yume had been worried about getting sick in that weather. Then Ruruko had grabbed her by the scarf and kissed her to stop her scolding. For ice cream? Ruruko said. Yume turned to look at her, her hair falling around her like a curtain. It's a good idea. I was thinking of getting ice cream. She reached out to touch Ruruko's face, but this time Ruruko didn't pull away. It's strange, she murmured. You do remind me a little bit of her. It's her expressions, her mannerisms, the way you talk. You're different. Maybe you could be her cousin? She grinned and leaned into Yume's touch. Her fingers felt warm, real. Guess I'm lucky. You are, said Yume, tracing the line of Ruruko's face all the way down to her jaw. Her touch was tender instead of sensual. But don't tell Rina I said that. I don't want her to get a swelled head. She shifted on the bed and her skirt whispered around her. You know, it's complicated. I want her to think I'm responsible. I'm her senior and I'm supposed to look out for her. At the same time, I want to spoil her. There's just something special about her. It makes me determined to show her that all her hard work is worthwhile. She loves you, Ruruko said. She still did. That's why she worked so hard. Yume glanced at her, surprised. Ruruko expected her to deny it, but instead, gentle pink spread across her cheeks. Is it so obvious? Ruruko smiled up at her. Only to the people who matter, she said. She has a lot of growing up to do, but she's a good dancer. She's full of fire. She's beautiful. Maybe you should tell her that more often. I'm only telling you now this because you're Rina's cousin. Oh, so it's decided now. She swatted Yume with a pillow, and Yume yanked it away from her and tossed it across the room. If you could, Ruruko said, much quieter, if you could be with anyone, would you still want to be with her? Yume hesitated and looked away. Could we talk about something else? Uncomfortable, familiar disappointment settled in Ruruko's chest. But still, she thought this was the closest Yume had ever come to admitting it to Ruruko, that she had loved Rina. She said as much in private many times, but maybe telling Rina's cousin was the closest she'd come to speaking it aloud in public. You can talk about anything you want, she said. Yume smiled and patted Ruruko's hair. It was an impulsive gesture, but to Ruruko, it felt familiar, safe. If you want to see Rina in her element, you should come see us perform in Harajuku next week. I've been drilling the girls, and our choreography is excellent. She's never been better. The memory of crashing lights came back to Ruruko, the way it had in Kaori's room. But this time, she closed her eyes tight and held on, focusing on the living warmth of the body beside her. The memory slipped away. Mariko opened her eyes to the mirrored ceiling, blinked once, twice. Her reflection blinked back. "Yeah," she said, her voice steady. "I'll be there." Again and again and again. Yume took her hand and squeezed it, the way she used to do all those years ago. "Good," she said. Her face was so lovely that it hurt to look at her. "I promise you won't be disappointed." Thanks, guys.
Tell us again the story in the book.
Oh, yes, the story is called All the Time We've Left to Spend. It is in this anthology, which is full of amazing stories that are not mine, and you should read all of them. And the anthology is called Robots vs. Fairies. Obviously, this is Team Robot. Duh. And thank you for your patience, because I am still sick and my throat is not cooperating with me today. So, thank you.
Any questions for Alyssa? All right. Well, thanks for reading for us.
Awesome. Thank you.